Have you ever found yourself feeling, inexplicably tired or achy, maybe just generally unwell, even when you're eating all the right stuff, hitting the gym, you're doing everything you're told right, but something still feels off? What if true health isn't just about what you eat or how hard you exercise for that hour a day, but actually about how you move? Or maybe how you don't move all day, every day. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a really, really intriguing perspective. It kind of challenges our usual thinking about fitness, about well being. We're drawing heavily from this fascinating book, Move Your DNA Restore Your Health Through Natural Movement.
Yeah, and our mission today really is to uncover this profound connection. It's often overlooked, this link between our daily movement habits and, believe it or not, our cellular health. We're going to explore how our modern environment, the way we live now, might actually be, well, starving our bodies, starving them of essential movement nutrients. Yeah, sounds like a big claim, I know, but we'll dig into some surprising facts, how our bodies are literally shaped by mechanical forces. And then, most importantly, we want to give you practical ways, tiny adjustments you can make for maybe some radical improvements.
Get ready for some serious aha moments, I think, because this deep dive, it's going to change how you think about pretty much everything. Every step you take, every posture, how you sit, even how you sleep. Let's unpack this. Okay, so let's start with something pretty fundamental, a distinction that might surprise you. When we talk about fitness, we almost always think exercise, right? But this source material, it makes a really clear case that exercise is just a tiny, tiny subset of something much, much bigger: movement. Think of it like a huge Venn diagram, this massive outer circle. That's movement.
That's a great way to picture it, yeah. And inside that giant movement circle, you can put, well, anything the human body can do, from something as simple as breathing, or winking, wiggling your toes, all the way up to squatting, crawling, climbing, even giving birth. It's all movement. Exercise, though, that's a much smaller circle inside. It's usually planned, structured.
Okay, so if movement is everything, what's the problem with just focusing on exercise, which, let's face it, is what most of us do?
Well, the issue is twofold, really. Exercise is often limited in time, that dedicated hour, maybe two. And crucially, it's often limited in the actual patterns of movement. A lot of exercise routines are just slightly different versions of the same kinds of motions. Even cross-training, which sounds like it should give variety, can sometimes fall short. Because our ingrained movement habits mean we often perform these new exercises in the same old ways. This creates what the book calls stress risers in our tissues.
Stress risers, what exactly are those?
Think of them like points where forces get concentrated. Because you're doing these repetitive, narrow movements, the stress isn't spread out, it builds up in specific spots, leads to localized wear and tear. So we're not truly varying the loads our body experiences, even if we think we are.
Loads, okay, that's another fascinating concept the source really digs into. It introduces this idea of movement hunger and movement nutrition. Can you kind of unpack those for us? How do they fit together?
Yeah, it's a neat analogy. Just like our bodies signal hunger when we miss essential food nutrients, this perspective suggests we get movement hunger signals too. Our bodies, our physiology respond to our movement diet. And often that diet is low in quantity and pretty poor in quality. Movement, like food, isn't optional. It's fundamental. And we're not just lacking movement sometimes. We're often getting the equivalent of, say, movement Snickers instead of a movement kale salad. We feel like we did something, but we're not really nourishing ourselves at that deeper level.
I love that analogy, movement Snickers. It makes perfect sense. So when we talk about a load in this context, I usually think of, lifting something heavy, like that 20-pound pumpkin example. But it sounds like you're saying it's more subtle than just weight.
It absolutely is. Much more subtle. A load isn't just the weight itself, like the pumpkin. It's the unique cellular deformation created by carrying it or experiencing any force. Every time you move, every single force applied to your body creates a unique cellular experience. It's almost like an invisible nutrient for your tissues. So holding that pumpkin, yeah, your arm muscle cells are working, but they're also bending. Your skin stretches, your bones subtly flex.
Yeah.
All these tiny invisible loads create a specific cellular experience beyond just the effort you feel.
That sounds incredibly deep. Is there actual science backing this up? A field exploring this connection between physical force and our cells?
There certainly is, yeah. This is where the emerging field of mechanobiology comes in. It's really fascinating stuff. It studies something called mechanotransduction, which is basically the process where cells actually sense and respond to these mechanical signals, pushes, pulls, stretches. And scientists are discovering just how much these physical forces shape everything. cellular development, how our tissues work day to day, physiology, even disease. Cells respond differently, they regenerate differently, they even express genes differently based on the mechanical world they live in.
Okay, so if I'm following this, you're saying some of our common health problems, things we usually blame on genes or diet, might actually be connected to how our cells are responding or maybe failing to respond to these mechanical forces.
That's exactly it. That's the implication. A lot of common health issues we face, think osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, even some cancers, conditions called collagenopathies.
Mm.
They're now being looked at as potential diseases of mechanotransduction,
Mm.
conditions that are significantly influenced by how our cells are dealing with the mechanical forces or maybe the lack of varied forces they experience every single day. It's a bit of a game changer, really, in how we think about the root causes of some illnesses.
Wow. This whole idea makes me think of that diseases of captivity hypothesis you mentioned earlier. The source uses a really powerful example, captive orcas. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, it's a very compelling analogy, though quite sad, actually. Captive orcas often develop what's called floppy fins.
Mm.
Their big dorsal fin literally collapses. Why? Because in their tanks, they don't experience the natural, powerful forces of the ocean. The water pressure, the constant movement against currents that are essential for the fin's structure. The whale's body, its genetics, its equipment, it's perfectly designed for the ocean. It's the captive environment, the small, unchanging tank. That's the problem.
And the connection to us, humans. Are we? Are we kind of like those captive orcas in our modern lives?
In a very real sense, yes. I think that's the core argument. We are effectively like captive animals in our modern habitat. Our tissues, our cells, they're just not suited to the loads created through the way we move or don't move in our typical environment. Chairs, cars, flat surfaces. And this leads to what you could call diseases of behavior. Our physiology isn't broken necessarily. It's responding exactly as it should to the specific movement input we give it. So our poor health, in many cases, might be a sign of a broken mechanical environment, not necessarily broken bodies or just bad genes.
Right. So it's not that our genes are inherently faulty, maybe, but that their expression is being heavily influenced by our environment, specifically our movement environment.
That's the essence of epigenetics, yeah. A gene isn't just a switch that's either on or off, creating a fixed outcome. Identical genes can behave very differently depending on the cell's environment, the signals it receives. Think about a tree. Its genes dictate it's an oak, not a pine, right? But it's the constant all-day stimulus from the wind blowing this way, that way, that dictates the girth of its trunk, how thick the branches are, even the angles they grow at. That mechanical information is essentially stored in the tree's structure. It shapes it profoundly.
That's a really beautiful analogy. So our physical environment, our movement choices, they're actively shaping how our genes express themselves, not just what genes we got dealt.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
And understanding that helps us see why just looking for a health, fix a pill, a diet without considering your movement environment might only get you so far. It's like trying to fix a droopy plant by just changing its soil, but you keep it in a dark closet. Need the right environment, too.
Okay, so you've painted a really vivid picture here.
Yeah.
Us as captive animals, what are some of the main ways our modern environment actually creates this movement captivity?
Yeah.
Where should we start digging in?
Well, let's start with the big one. Something most of us do for hours and hours, every single day, sitting.
Oh, yeah.
The
Exactly. And sitting is a major culprit. It creates these very specific kind of complex geometric shapes in our blood vessels, particularly in bends like in the abdominal aorta, coronary arteries, the carotids in your neck. These consistent bends and curves, held for hours daily for years. They're associated with plaque buildup, atherosclerosis. And beyond blood flow, long-term sitting physically shortens muscles, especially hip flexors and hamstrings. It can even reduce their ability to generate force because the little units inside muscles, the sarcomeres, they adapt to being perpetually shortened. They lose their optimal length.
I can definitely feel that after a long day at the desk. Okay, what about what we put on our feet? Most of us wear shoes pretty much all day.
Footwear, yeah. Another huge factor. Even shoes that seem harmless, like basic flat shoes, or ones with just a small heel. They act like mini casts. They immobilize the foot. They often squish toes together, keep the ankle slightly pointed down, that's plantar flexion. And over time, this weakens the intricate muscles of the lower leg. It affects bone density in the feet, and it can even mess with nerve health. Our feet are supposed to be these incredibly sensitive organs, constantly reading the ground. Shoes interfere with that neurological image, basically muffling the conversation between your feet and your brain. It's like wearing mittens all day.
So it's the shoes, but also what we're walking on. You mentioned flat surfaces, all that pavement.
That's right. Walking only on flat, uniform surfaces is another problem. It drastically limits the range of motion in our ankles, knees, hips. It leads to those repetitive use injuries because we're only using a tiny fraction of the joint's potential movement. Everything gets kind of stuck in one pattern. Rigid.
Okay, this next one kind of blew my mind from the book. Even our sleep environment, our pillows, our mattresses, they're called immobilizing devices. How does that work?
They are perhaps the most subversive ones because they feel so good, so comfortable. But think about it. A thick mattress and a supportive pillow prevent the natural joint movements and pressure changes that would happen if you slept on a firmer, maybe more varied surface. The mattress dampens pressure so effectively that we become blind to potential sore spots or areas needing movement. It's similar to how an orthotic supports an existing weakness, rather than encouraging the foot to get stronger. Your body doesn't get those subtle signals to shift and adjust overnight, so we can actually become more rigid while we sleep.
Wow. Yeah, that's a mind bender. Okay, what about our sensory world? Noise and light.
Yeah, the environment isn't just physical. Our world is filled with constant, often loud, man-made noise, what the book calls anthropophony.
Yeah.
This can be a source of chronic stress, it raises cortisol, and it can damage hearing over time. Compare that to biophony, natural sounds, like birdsong or wind, which tend to be more varied and often calming. Our eyes, too, they're designed to constantly shift focus near, far, middle distance.
Yeah.
But modern indoor life, screens, we spend so much time focused on things relatively close up. This prevents the eye muscles from fully relaxing the way they do when looking far away, and it might affect eyesight and even our nervous system regulation.
Okay, so, wow, it sounds like we've basically spent a lifetime adapting to this very specific, very limited movement environment. It can feel a bit overwhelming, like, oh, great, do I need to go live in a cave now?
Mhm.
But the book offers a more gentle path, right? It's not about some radical overnight change.
Absolutely not. No cave required. The absolute key is a gradual, stepwise approach. You can't just leap into, full hunter-gatherer mode overnight. You'd likely get injured because your body simply hasn't built up the tolerance or the different strengths needed. The goal is really to gently undo old adaptations by introducing small, consistent increases in different loading behaviors. Smart, incremental changes, not radical shock. Think of it like slowly adding more diverse vegetables to your diet, not suddenly trying to survive on only raw sprouts.
Okay, that's reassuring. So where do we even begin? What are the foundational adjustments we should focus on first?
The author suggests focusing on 3 key areas initially because they have such a big impact: your footwear, how you sit, and how you stand. For sitting, start exploring alternatives to chairs, even just short periods. Try sitting on the floor in different positions. Maybe look up anthropologist Dr. Gordon Hughes's work on natural human sitting postures. There are tons. For standing, pay attention to your feet. Try to point them straight ahead more often, not turned out. And think about aligning your thighs over your lower legs to counteract that habitual turnout many of us walk with. And for footwear, gradually transition towards more minimal shoes that let your feet bend and feel the ground more. Start slow, maybe just an hour a day around the house, then build up tolerance.
And it really sounds like the secret sauce maybe is variability. That word keeps popping up.
Yes, variability is the crucial new variable for most of us. Constantly changing your environment, even in small ways, ensures a more thorough use of your body. So for you, the listener, think about cross-terraining your walks. Don't just walk on the flat pavement every day. Vary the grade, find some hills, even small ones. Vary the surface walk on grass, gravel, trails, sand, uneven ground, even just stepping on and off curbs consciously. This provides a constant stream of data to your brain. It wakes up sleepy muscles, and it profoundly strengthens that mind-body connection. Your brain gets this rich, diverse sensory input, not just the same old numb pattern.
So it's not just about hitting 10,000 steps then. I always thought steps were the main thing.
Steps are good, movement is good, but it goes much deeper than just the count. There was a study mentioned people walking barefoot in a Hawaiian jungle. Compared to walking on pavement in shoes, their step count actually went down. They slowed down. But they were working much, much harder, engaging way more muscles, using more balance, getting more sensory feedback. So step count alone, it doesn't capture the whole picture of effort or benefit. It's really about the quality and variety of the movement.
Okay, let's talk about some specific fundamental movements, things many of us have kind of lost. Like walking sounds basic, but you're saying many of us don't even walk correctly anymore.
It's often true, yeah. Many people essentially fall forward when they walk, rather than pushing off powerfully. Chronic sitting and wearing shoes with heels, even small ones, often limits proper hip extension, the leg moving behind the body. And it weakens those important lateral hip muscles needed for stability. So the focus shouldn't be on forcing yourself to walk right, but more on freeing up those immobilities like tight hip flexors or stiff ankles, so that a more natural, stable gait can just re-emerge. Our bodies know how to walk efficiently, we just need to remove the roadblocks. And don't forget that reciprocal arm swinging opposite to legs, it's crucial for spinal stability, and many of us kind of suppress it.
Right. Okay, what about squatting? That's a big one. A lot of us really struggle with a deep squat.
Ah, the squat, yes. It's presented as basically a non-negotiable ingredient for health, gut health, pelvic floor health, hip and knee function. And we're talking the deep traditional squat here. Heels flat on the ground, bum towards the heels, maximal bend at the hips and knees, like you see toddlers do effortlessly.
For modern bodies, yeah, it's challenging. Partly lack of practice, partly because our weight distribution might be different. Muscles are tight in some places, weak in others. But you can start with assisted squatting. Lightly hold onto a door frame or a counter as you sit back, focusing on keeping heels down and untucking your pelvis.
Yeah,
Gradually coax your body back into it. It's about retraining, not forcing.
makes sense. And for the upper body, it's not just about lifting weights at the gym. The book talks a lot about hanging and swinging. That's right. Hanging, just passively from a bar with two arms, is foundational. It uses gravity to decompress the spine, stretch the shoulders, and it builds serious grip strength. Then swinging introduces more dynamic loads. You have moments of supporting your weight on one arm, plus the forces from acceleration. It's about building that integrated functional upper body strength, connecting your arms to your core.
Any practical tips for someone like me, maybe, who wants to start hanging but feels like their hands just aren't ready? They'd rip.
That's a really common hurdle and an excellent point. The source emphasizes that often the first limitation isn't muscle strength, it's the skin and connective tissue in your hands. They're just not used to those shear forces. So start with skin training. You can do pretend hanging, where your feet stay on the ground, but you put significant weight through your hands onto various surfaces. Use different bars, maybe sturdy tree branches, even the top of a door jamb. Just get your hands used to pressure and friction. Once your hands feel more conditioned, then you can progress to short, full hangs and eventually maybe some gentle swinging. Even just a few seconds, multiple times a day, makes a difference.
Got it. Okay. And finally, the book talks about how a lot of our aches and pains might come from static tension, not related to active movement. So we need to release some of that built up tension. What are some practical ways to do that?
Precisely. So much discomfort is from muscles just being held tight, chronically. Think about jaw clenching. From stress, it can lead to teeth fracks, TMJ pain. A simple jaw release, just consciously relaxing the jaw without letting it hang open, can help retrain that habit. Sitting shortens hip flexors, right? So doing a gentle psoas release stretch can help improve hip extension, allow your rib cage to sit better, maybe ease some low back tension.
What about those like sore spots you only find when someone digs into them, or just chronic headaches?
Yeah, those sore spots a massage therapist discovers, they've likely been there ages, but your soft mattress might be cushioning you so well you're unaware of the chronic tightness underneath. Similarly, common headaches can sometimes be linked to your pillow height, keeping your neck stiff all night, preventing natural movement. So simple release exercises can be really powerful. Things like rhomboid push-up, which isn't really a push-up, more letting your shoulder blades glide apart and together to free up the upper back. Or gentle spinal twists, maybe the windmill stretch, to improve spinal mobility and address that common tendency to thrust the rib cage forward. It's all about restoring the natural freedom of movement that's been lost to static holding patterns.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've explored how movement is way more than just exercise. It's like essential cellular nutrition. And our modern environments, the chairs, the shoes, the flat ground, they create these kinds of diseases of captivity by restricting the natural loads our bodies evolved to expect, starving our cells of varied input.
Exactly. And the key takeaway, I think the real nugget here, is that genuine health improvement often comes not just from adding an hour of exercise, but from changing how you move, and even how you think about movement throughout your entire day. Integrating more varied, more natural movements into everything you do. Small, consistent adjustments. They really can yield profound changes in your body's shape, its function, your overall health. It's about working with your body's natural design, not against it.
Here's a final thought for you, something provocative to chew on. Richard Feynman, the physicist, right? He once talked about the beauty of a flower. An artist friend felt Feynman, by understanding the flower's biology, its mechanics, was somehow taking away its beauty. But Feynman disagreed. He said the scientific understanding, knowing about the cells, the intricate actions inside it, adds to the excitement, the mystery, the awe. It deepens the beauty.
That connects so well to what we've been discussing, just like with the flower. Understanding the cellular mechanics of movement, the mechanobiology,
Right.
it doesn't reduce the wonder of the human body. If anything, it enhances it. And it also highlights how important precise language is. When our basic words like health, illness, even exercise lack really clear, mechanically aware definitions, our understanding and the solutions we create can be fundamentally flawed. We end up just describing, one part of the elephant without seeing the whole creature.
So as you go about your day to day, maybe think about the load profile you're creating for your body with every choice you make. What small adjustments can you make right now to give your cells more of that movement nutrition they're craving? And when you hear advice about health, maybe ask yourself, what part of the elephant are they focused on? And what crucial part of the picture, maybe related to movement and mechanics, might they be missing?